My name is Rebecca Cokley. I am the U.S. Disability Rights Program Officer for the Ford Foundation. My pronouns are she, hers. In the disability community, we often do visual descriptions. So I am a redheaded woman with a glorious abundance of freckles. I am super casually dressed, more so than I usually am. And in large part, it's because about 30 minutes ago when I was getting ready for this webinar, I got hit with a migraine. And so I am here today in soft pants and in a way that accommodates my needs. I have achondroplastic, achondroplastic dwarfism, which is the most common form of dwarfism. And I've spent the last 30 plus years advocating in the disability rights movement, and would like to say, welcome. Our community is infinitely strengthened with your presence, and we are ever better for the fact that you have joined us. I want to thank the entire team of ME Action for inviting me to speak with you all today. While I've only been familiar with your work for a few years now, I've known of your community for decades. When I was coming up in the disability rights space, and I served on the National Council on Disabilities Youth Advisory Committee, my colleague and friend Rebecca Moore used to talk about the significant discrimination that she faced in school as a student with ME. The first time I mentioned ME in a speech, it was at the Women's March annual conference. And I had asked how many people in the audience counted themselves among the disability and chronic illness communities. And only about 20 hands of an audience of about 4,500 went up. We've all been there. So then I asked how many people there were cancer survivors, lived with migraines, how many people lived with fibroids or had fibromyalgia. And then I threw ME into the conversation. And by the time that I was done, over 1,000 hands went up. And that wasn't surprising to me, as I know it's not surprising to all of you. As I left the stage that day, a number of women pulled me aside after my remarks to talk about their experience, specifically living with ME, and the fact that they hadn't been believed and that they wanted a needed community and were not finding it in mainstream organizing efforts. The work of the Ford Foundation's U.S. Disability Rights Strategy focuses on building the field of disability and chronic illness leaders and driving critically needed changes at the nexus of economic justice and our conditions. We see the ME community as a key part of that strategy, which is why we're thrilled to fund ME Action. This community is disproportionately discriminated against across education, employment, healthcare, and pretty much every other area. And we know that for Black, Brown, Indigenous, and other communities of color with ME, we see that discrimination significantly compounded. All of this is why it was important for me when I came to the Ford Foundation last year to support this community and its work to educate and empower people with ME with the critical tools, information, and resources that you all need. This community is part of the disability community, and your rights under the ADA, the Rehabilitation Act, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and other legislation is without question. All of this was true before the coronavirus pandemic. However, I want to acknowledge how frustrating it must be to watch society and experts in health and the sciences suddenly discover post-viral illnesses like a modern-day Christopher Columbus. The ME community has an unprecedented level of expertise navigating a world that has doubted them and advocating for healthcare in a system that has questioned your very own existence. And while the state of the ongoing pandemic continues to be concerning, there is also a critical opportunity to ensure that funding for resources and treatments be inclusive of ME wherever possible. We need much more data collection centering your community, and we need to ensure that people living with ME are included in broader data collection efforts. We need employers to understand their responsibilities to support and accommodate people with ME, COVID, and other post-viral illnesses in the workplace. It is an honor to be here with all of you today. And I'm thrilled to pass this back to the host committee so that we can hear from the person I know I'm so excited to hear from, Dr. Ed Young. Thank you.